Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be taking a first look at Gold Mythic Officer Negan, who is going to be coming to the game as an ultra token wheel character, seemingly as part of a Halloween promotion. As you can see by the visuals you see on the screen, he is basically the Rick version of Negan. We have had a Negan version of Rick in the past, so this is actually quite interesting. On the right hand side you can see he has got quite a beefy pistol in his hand. We will check that out later in the video. But Lucille's on the back, and it looks like maybe even like the sword of Michonne, and maybe a random rifle, maybe of like, I don't know, is that Andrea? It's stolen everybody's weapons. It's stolen everybody's weapons. Is that Rick's pistol maybe even? He has got the pumpkin, like, I don't know, cauldron in his hands, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, the visuals are very like Rick reminiscent, or maybe Shane, but I think it's most likely Rick with the hat. On the left hand side we can see it in a bit more detail, and there's actually a little bit of an added bonus. We see another character in the background. I think that's going to be potentially like a Halloween version of Crag, potentially on the way as well. They normally do the like teaser character in the background, they do get released, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there. If we look at the stats, at level 1440, limit break 3, he has got 13,166 attack, 36,865 defense, and 37,743 HP. He is an alert character, tank of course, Gold Mythic, and he's going to be joining the Savior's Allegiance. Now the first thing we're going to check out is going to be his Adrenaline Rush, and it is called Trick or Maim. It is a 55 AP cost rush, so perfect for a defense team character. By the looks of things, this guy is going to be a defense team character. Deal 10% of this fighter's defense stat as main damage and taunt a line of enemies for 1 turn. This fighter heals for 20% of their defense stat and gets elusive for 2 turns. So he is defense stat based character. His specialist skill will boost his defense rating quite significantly. His base defense is also very nice, and he's going to be dealing damage and healing based off that stat. Now the taunt is kind of nice. If he doesn't take down those characters will be taunted for a turn. They're going to give him more AP, more likeliness to actually get potentially a command rush on the next turn, or a natural rush after 2 turns, rather than having to wait at the full 3. So that's actually quite nice for Negan's AP gain. And the heal is just decent. That could potentially be tens of thousands of HP, just based off of 20% of his max defense. If he has big stacks on his specialist skill especially, that could be potentially like 50 to 100k, you know. It can get like 400% defense stack. So I've seen, I think, Indomitable go up to close to 1000% before, so it can get nuts. It can get nuts. The elusive is a nice little touch. It's going to stop those taunted targets just from gaining AP. It will also stop Officer Negan from dishing out AP on his next turn, be it a basic attack or a signature move. And again, that's just pretty decent when it comes to kind of like AP control. Okay, so here we go off of turn 1, and I can do the Adrenaline Rush. I'm going to rush a line of enemies that is not already taunted. We're going to go here because there is already some taunt down, and you can see the taunt's going to come in. Also the damage based off of his defense. The higher his defense is, the higher the damage is. Right now he hasn't got a defense leader, he hasn't got any stacks of his Indomitable. His rush is generally going to come in with some stacks, or actually has got a 40% defense buff somewhere, so he has got a little bit of a boost, but his base defense right now is like 40-50k, so it's nothing crazy. He can get up to 100k plus off base, plus the stacks can come in. This damage can get significantly boosted, and it's perma damage. It can get cleansed, but it's perma damage. It does reduce the max bonus HP potential. And don't forget, attack team characters don't have much HP. It bypasses that bonus HP, bypasses any defense rating, and it goes straight for that max HP. And like I say, attack team characters, 20-25k. This is with a not very high defense rating. It's already doing 8k, so it's going to do significantly higher when he actually gets this off. Now, if characters did somehow survive, potentially they've got resists, or they're just going to have high base HP, the taunt's going to force those characters to attack Negan the next turn. He'll gain AP, they won't be able to take their turn, and that's obviously good for, you know, the longevity of a defense team. Now if we look at the upgrades on Officer Negan's Adrenaline Rush, you can see at grade 3 the AP cost gets reduced to 55, probably from 66. That's going to come in only 1 copy, so that's nice and easy. At grade 5, you get an upgrade where this fighter gets elusive for 2 turns. That's tacked onto the end. That is just a nice little bonus coming in at grade 5. Then at Limit Break 2, it gets an upgrade where it deals 10% of this fighter's defense stat as main damage to a line of enemies. So initially it's only going to be a line taunt and self-heal, but the actual damage is going to come in at Limit Break 2. I would see this rush as being pretty nice if it goes off. Generally speaking, on defense team characters, the rushes are just okay. The main power a lot of the time is in the signature move, the passives, and the weapon. But this rush is going to be pretty significant when it goes off. And I will say the taunted attacks will proc other things in his kit, which are going to be very, very interesting indeed. So do stay tuned for that. So this is going to be a little bit more powerful than it seems right now. But I would say, as usual, the rushes are not as powerful, like I say, as other parts of what a defense team character will bring to the table. But there's a reasonable amount going on here, to be honest. Defense stat seems to be the way to go, although you could rely on indomitable stacks just to boost this as much as possible. So I think this rush is just okay. The more dangerous parts of Negan's kit are definitely yet to come. And one of those more dangerous parts is going to be a turn 1 signature move called Firestarter, which has an initial cooldown of turn 1, like I say. Cooldown of 2 turns, number of uses unlimited. This fighter recovers from all negative status effects. All tough and strong enemies get 15,000 burn damage for 2 turns. Deal 10% of this fighter's defense stat as damage to a line of enemies and taunt that line of enemies for 1 turn. So quite a lot going on here. We'll just go over the first part. Obviously, the cleanse is very nice. There are obviously some things that can stop this from happening. If he's dazed, taunted, confused, or stunned, he actually just can't take his turn unless he has focus. It does bypass 2 of those, but there are 4 things that are going to actually stop him from being able to do this. But everything else, if he's got it, like for instance infection, bleed, burn, that sort of thing, he will be able to fully cleanse that, which is obviously nice. All tough and strong enemies getting 15,000 burn damage for 2 turns is interesting. He is an alert character, so he will effectively counter his counter, as tough enemies will get extra damage, and 15,000 burn damage for 2 turns is enough to take out every single damage roll character in the game. They will have to get some heals somehow, so those damage roll characters are in a lot of trouble. And it's not rolls, it's just anyone who's tough and strong. So even some support characters on attack teams could be in trouble there. Deal 10% of this fighter's defense stat as damage to a line of enemies and taunt that line of enemies for 1 turn. It's exactly pretty much the second part of the adrenaline rush. And again, it's just going to be adding more taunt, so he can taunt a line turn 1, and he could potentially taunt a line turn 2, because those AP attacks will come in, and he could gain AP from that, basically from the hits, and base 5 for per taunted attack. He obviously taunts other people, as you saw at the beginning of the fight before, so he could potentially get a 2nd turn natural rush, and there are going to be procs when those taunts go off in his passives and his weapon. So yeah, like I say, I think the overall power of Negan looks pretty decent, and he's very, very taunt heavy at the moment, that's for sure. Okay, so here we are off of turn 1, and I'm going to be doing the signature move, this time against the bottom line. It's pretty much going to do the same sort of damage that it did before against the top line, but it's not going to be main damage, so bonus HP will stop this, just worth noting. But the taunts are going to come in, and so are the burns going to come on the tough characters and the strong characters. Now, there's only 1 tough character on this team, so only 1 character is going to get burned. However, this is actually pretty beneficial. If you think about it, if Negan's on a defense team and someone decides, hey, you know what, I'm not going to take any tough characters in against this team to kind of circumvent this burn, that's beneficial for Negan and any other alert characters on the team. So that's absolutely fine. If no one wants to bring in tough characters, you're going to have less trait damage come in. That's absolutely fine. And you could potentially try and put him in an alert and fast team, for instance, Davy teams, and then obviously someone wouldn't want to bring in strong characters, and then the fast characters on that defense team are going to get some bonuses because they're going to take less damage too. So the very interesting potential there on Negan in a Davy team, but potentially in any other team where alert characters can get used, of course. Now, I know what you're thinking. Officer Negan has huge amounts of taunt potential in his kit, so that means that attack teams that come up against him know that they can potentially do attack while taunted and get massive benefits out of that. But while that is the case, you can also use a character with Negan that actually has benefits when characters use things like focus to try and actually get that benefit to the highest standard. Someone like Rosie gives attack down when focus status effects are applied to a team. So definitely some team up potential there with Negan. Could potentially be required if you want to get the highest potential at this character. But hidden behind a shield, he'll still be good. Those taunted attacks will go towards the shield instead. And in Rosie's case, that potentially could mean it taunted into a taunt weapon. So it's not actually a terrible situation there. Now, if we look at the upgrades here on the signature move, you can see at grade 2, it gets an upgrade where all tough and strong enemies get 15,000 burn for 2 turns. That's going to come in at grade 2, so nice and early. At grade 4, it's going to get an upgrade where this fighter recovers from all negative status effects. That's nice, particularly for damage over time. That's going to be very, very nice. And then we're going to see at Limit Break 1, it's going to get -1 to starting cooldown. They've seemed to go away from the Limit Break 3 obvious like minus starting cooldown, which is kind of nice. And then at Limit Break 3, we have an upgrade where it taunts a line of enemies for 1 turn. This is obviously quite important still to get if you want to have maximum control and to have a very good chance of getting a natural turn to rush. If he taunts 3, he could potentially still get it based on the damage he takes. So that's just worth noting. I like this signature move quite a lot. It does basically put off people from using strong and tough characters on an attack team against Negan, and that potentially could set up nice defense measures for the teams that he's in. Like specifically Davey teams, fast and alert characters taking no base trait damage would be very, very nice indeed. So yeah, nice signature move. Goes off turn 1. Gonna have to deal with this. It's gonna be problematic for sure. Now, before we get into Officer Negan's mythic abilities, we are of course going to be doing a giveaway as Officer Negan is an Ultra Token Wheel character. So we're going to be giving away 10,000 Ultra Tokens. And all you have to do to enter is type in part of a comment, "I am Negan," as part of your comment, and you'll be entered into the giveaway. I will be drawing this in around 10 days, potentially on a Thursday live stream. I will reply to the winning comment, so make sure you have your notifications turned on and you'll be notified when I reply to your winning comment. You can, of course, be on the live stream and check the live stream itself, but this is just the easiest way if you want to know you've won. If you do not claim your prize, it will be re-rolled on a future stream. You generally have like 4 or 5 days to claim your prize a lot of the time. Best of luck if you enter. Now back to the video. So taking a look at Officer Negan's mythic abilities, his passives, of course, he has got strength, which is 40% critical hit resistance because he's a tank. This is going to be nice. Those taunted attacks are going to have a reduced chance to hit crits, just basically reducing the amount of incoming damage that Officer Negan's going to take. It's going to work on anything where it's a basic attack or a multi-hit rush, that sort of thing, so it is pretty decent. The next passive is called Undaunting Aura. At the start of each wave and turn, all alert and savior allegiance teammates get 100% stun resistance for 3 turns. This is pretty interesting and I think will be quite nice if he's in a heavy alert team. He's already countering tough characters on his signature move, and this is just further buffing the alert characters that are going to be in a team. This does semi-counter some characters out there that have stuns on passives or weapons and so on and so forth, and it does actually like limit the control he's going to have on himself as a base. And remember I said his signature move, there's only like 4 ways to stop it, and 2 of those can be bypassed with focus. Now there's only 3 ways to stop it initially because he's got stun resistance off the get-go, which is going to be very, very powerful for sure. The next one is called Pumpkin Spice. At the start of each wave and turn, 100% chance to taunt a random enemy for 2 turns. This is obviously very, very good because he's going to be taunting an extra enemy, and that means more AP gain on turn 2 when the basic attacks come in from the attack team, because if he obviously has taunted 3 enemies, that's 15 base AP instantly, and he only has to gain 5 AP from those attacks in terms of the damage he takes, which he generally will get to get a natural turn to rush. Taunts are very powerful. They stop obviously a lot going on when it comes to a character, and because he has the elusive in his adrenaline rush, he would not give away any AP when those attacks come in after his adrenaline rush. He will get bigger bonuses from this as well. I will say his weapon is adding significant boost to any taunts that come in against him, and we'll check that out later. The last one is called Negan Lives, When being attacked, reduce damage by 70% if the attacker has a damage over time status effect. Now on paper, this seems kind of RNG in terms of like the enemies have to have damage over time to reduce the damage. So it doesn't seem like it's amazing. I will say there's going to be pretty heavy amounts of damage over time on most attack team characters. Unless there's heavy cleanse or heavy like resist on an attack team, this is going to be very effective for Negan. And only deal damage signature moves and deal damage rushes would be able to bypass this. Any attack based attacks when it comes to rushes, signature moves or basic attacks are going to be massively reduced. 70% reduction is nuts, but it does require those damage over time effects. But we'll look at his weapon later on, and like I said, that's where those damage over time effects are going to come in. Now if I start the fight, you can see that a lot of my characters do have stun resist, because we have got 4 savior characters in the team. I use the ones that are going to be a bit more prominent in terms of usability. You've got Carson, you've got Steve, and then you've got an attack team character in Commander John. And there is a bit of potential that Negan can be used on attack because of the damage over time he's going to do with that signature move, but also with the weapon, which we'll see coming up. And you can see on your team, there is a character taunted for 2 turns. I'm not sure which one it is because we have another character doing it as well. Now, these taunts can land on the same character sometimes, but they can also be separated. So you can have pretty reasonable control if you have multiple characters that can proc this. Yeah, pretty decent. You can sort of see the potential characters that it could be used with. If he did get used on a Davey defense team, Carson would obviously get big boost. 100% stun resist for the first 3 turns is nice indeed. Now looking at the upgrades on the passives, you can see at grade 1, Undaunting Aura 1 comes in at the start of each wave and turn. All alert and savior allegiance teammates get 50% stun resistance for 3 turns. At grade 2, he gets the first half of strength, where he's going to get 20% critical hit resistance. At grade 3, he's going to get the second half of Undaunting Aura at the start of each wave and turn. All alert and savior allegiance teammates get 50% stun resistance for 3 turns. And then if we scroll down, you can see Pumpkin Spice Part 1 comes in at the start of each wave and turn. 50% chance to taunt a random enemy for 2 turns. And then at grade 5, the first half of Negan Lives come in, where when being attacked, reduce damage by 30% if the attacker has a damage over time status effect. Moving on to limit breaks, Strength 2 is going to come in at limit break 1, making it 40% critical hit resistance total. Then at limit break 2, we are going to have Pumpkin Spice 2 come in, making a 100% chance to taunt a random enemy for 2 turns at the start of each wave and turn. And then at limit break 3, Negan Lives 2 comes in, making it a 70% reduction on attacks if an enemy has a damage over time status effect. Now, one thing to notice that potentially in the last clip you didn't see, we also had Laura in that team, who is not a savior, but she still had 100% stun resistance, and that's because she's an alert character. So you can potentially put this character in a defense team with multiple alert characters and Carson, and then Davey lead, and you could have like 4 of those characters max get stun resist. Davey himself would not get it, but that's actually not too bad at all. Just an extra layer of control you don't have to think about, and you can completely switch out your mods and think about other things. So yeah, quite nice passives, quite nice for a team, quite nice for Negan, quite nice for obviously his AP game potential off of those taunts. I think the passives are a nice little cherry on top for his kit so far, but it all comes together when we take a look at the weapon in just a second, because all those taunted attacks are suddenly going to be so massively amplified. It's going to be devastating, honestly. So while that taunt at the beginning of every turn doesn't seem too powerful right now, you're going to see why it's going to get really powerful. Now, before we check out that weapon, we're going to just check out his specialist skill, and it is called Indomitable 2. While not stunned, whenever this fighter takes damage, they gain 40% defense, in addition to any existing defense increases, including prior activations of this skill. Resets at the end of 2 turns. At the start of combat, they gain 40% defense for the first 2 turns of combat. So it's worth noting why this is good for 2 turns is because then it would always work on his adrenaline rush when it comes back to his turn. And those taunted attacks are going to come in and obviously give him this defense bonus. So he's going to get multiple stacks of this. We're going to show the full potential of this once I show the weapon, because if I obviously showed you before, it would give away what the weapon actually does, which is obviously really nice. But yeah, that's how the specialist skill works. And now let's see how it all comes together with the weapon. And here is his attached weapon, and it is Rick's Pilfered Robust Revolver. So it is actually Rick's revolver, and I'm guessing those weapons on his back in his visuals are also pilfered weapons. It has 40% defense base, 40% HP. This is the big one. Improved Bloody Aid. When being attacked, 60% chance to heal this fighter for 100% of their max HP, except when at max HP, and preemptively apply 5,000 bleed to all enemies for 3 turns. This is potentially really powerful. Against an attack team, this is actually kind of crazy, because if you do have 3 characters get taunted off of turn 1 and in turn 2 they all attack you, then you're going to be applying 15,000 bleed to every character. Don't forget that initial character taunted as well will also do the same. It's going to be crazy. And in the last slot, he also has Stonewall, where this fighter's defense cannot be reduced, which is going to be very nice for his specialist skill, which means he can never be defense downed. A lot of his kit is based off of defense. He's going to get procs when the taunt attack's going. He's going to deal damage over time when he's attacked by taunts, and also any attacks from the attack team who have a damage over time will be reduced because of one of his passives. Very problematic for sure. Now let's see how this works in like full action. Okay, so we will start the fight, and as you can see, we had a preemptive attack come in because we had the beginning of the fight taunt come in and hit Akira. We're going to hit the defend actions on other characters, and we'll see the taunt from the signature move come out from Negan here. He's going to attack the same line, but he could potentially do another taunt. Let's see. The attacks are going to be quite slow here, and he did taunt Carl in the bottom left-hand corner. And as you can see, now his defense rating's up to 174,000, and my attack team has got all burned because I've taken, foolishly, all tough and strong characters in against this team. 2 of the weapon procs came in, so now I've got 10,000 bleed on top, and those come in preemptively, and that reduced the incoming damage that Negan took, but because it procced the weapon anyway, he got healed by 100%, so he's now close to max HP if he is not max, and my entire team has 25,000 damage over time. There's only 2 characters by the looks of things that are going to be able to survive turn 2, as you can see. Then he does his Adrenaline Rush, does extra damage, so you can kind of see the potential of it, what his first 2 turns could look like, because that was only 2 turns. He did a signature move, then got the taunted attacks coming against him, he gained AP, then did the rush. And a lot of my teams have been taken down because of this. You're going to have to take very particular characters in against this character, and like I said, that is beneficial if you do avoid taking in tough characters, specifically against Negan and other alert characters. So that's how the weapon works in conjunction with the rest of his kit, and it looks very powerful indeed. I would definitely just keep this weapon as is and just upgrade one of defense or HP. It is actually going to be a bit of a debate on which ones you should upgrade over the other, just because if you upgrade his defense, you can upgrade how powerful his skills are and how obviously powerful his Stonewall procs are and stuff like that. But potentially you would want to have high HP just so he's harder to take out in general. Obviously, the choice is going to be up to you. It could basically come down to the defense leader you decide to use with him. But if you're not sure, generally speaking, I think defense rating is a good idea. So that's the first look at Gold Mythic Officer Negan, and he is going to be coming to the game as an ultra token wheel character, and he looks definitely very problematic on defense teams. He's going to slot into a couple of existing teams for sure, and we'll have to see if there's going to be some more characters coming out in the future that can work with Negan. We have got a sneak peek of a potential future character in Crag, and if he is going to be part of the Saviors, then he would get the potential Savior buff that Negan does apply. But Negan himself looks very good indeed. Do give me your thoughts on Gold Mythic Officer Negan, his visuals with the Rick kind of pilfered kit and the pilfered weapons on his back. I kind of like that idea. Let me know in the comments down below. That is the end of my video. I want to thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.